Rikita, do Americans like talking about the weather? As British people, what is a common topic for small talk in the USA? First of all, the weather is sort of a standard conversation starter in America too. In fact, not only in the United States, not only in the UK, in China. I spent quite a lot of my life there. Well, not quite a lot, 4 or 5 years. I spent quite a bit of time in China, and the weather is one of the things that people talk about. People also start conversations about food, like did you eat lunch, did you eat breakfast, as a conversation starter or a greeting. But in some ways, it's quite generic, right? So more often, people will use what's going on in the situation to have small talk, to start a quick back and forth chit chat. So you could say something about the weather. If you do, try to be a little specific. Instead of saying, how about this weather? Maybe say, I wonder when the hurricane is going to hit. Maybe not that. Well, recently there was a hurricane, so I guess I could have said that. Or recently there was, if you maybe saw in the news, a lot of rain in New York City. There was a hurricane. Did you have any flooding during the hurricane? Did you have any flooding in your apartment? I might say that to someone in the elevator who's on the first floor, or maybe it looks like they're on the first floor, and then we could talk about that a little bit. Maybe. I prefer not to use the generic weather conversation starter if I want to have a very simple chat with someone, if I want to start small talk. I tend to focus on something that we share in the situation that we find ourselves in. So I always ask myself, what's the thing that we have in common right now? If we're in the elevator, we both live in this building. I know for a fact that one of the laundry machines is broken. Okay, maybe I can use that as my conversation starter. So there's sort of different categories, right? One is the generic type. The generic type is the weather. If you're going to use the generic type, I suggest don't make it so open that nobody knows how to continue or how to respond. How about this weather is actually not a great way to start a generic small talk about the weather. Be a little more specific. You could also talk about sports. A lot of people talk about sports. I mean, if you find yourself in a situation where that's something you want to talk about, again, try to be specific. Don't say, how about those Yankees? I mean, that's sort of the classic opening conversation question, but I don't think anybody actually says that unless they're talking to someone they know, who they know watches the Yankees. I've never had a stranger say to me, how about those Yankees before? So if you know this person likes watching baseball and they're interested in the Yankees, then you might say, how about those Yankees? Otherwise, I recommend in general to try to keep it as specific as possible, even if you're using the generic type of conversation starter. If you don't want to use the generic conversation starter, weather, sports, current events, which I don't recommend doing, then ask yourself, what do we share right now? What do we share in this situation? Are we in a similar, doing a similar activity? Both shopping, for example, or both waiting in line for something, both taking our pet to the clinic, right? What is the thing that we share? Both wearing velvet tracksuits, right? Whatever it happens to be, find those things, 1 or 2 or 3 things, and then think about a question that you could use to begin a conversation. The more specific it is, the more context-driven it is. That means based on the situation you're both in, based on the things you both share, the more it is like that, probably the easier it will be to actually get the conversation off the ground, get the conversation started without making it very awkward. Right? Otherwise, if you ask super generic questions that are broad, how's the weather today? How about this weather? What do you think about this rain? I mean, it's okay, but I think it'll be hard to keep a conversation going like that. And in those sorts of situations where I can't find something in common, my preference is to say nothing. But that's just me. Hopefully that answers your question, Raketa. I don't know if there's any specific difference between the United States and the UK in that regard, but I would be interested to know if there are any differences. If you guys haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and follow or subscribe, of course. Also, check out my full courses in the links in the description.